For those of you who like to get a bargain, no doubt would have heard of Craigslist. But some deals on there may be a bit too good to be true. Please join me in welcoming fellow horror narrator, that Creepypasta guy, for my half of this two-part collaboration. Remember to go check out the remaining stories over on his channel when you're done here. But without further ado, it's time to get comfortable and let the darkness take control. Number 1. This is false advertising at its finest. I live to do work around homes in my spare time. I found a guy in the gigs section who was doing some renovations on a duplex that he owned and was looking for an extra hand. He knew electrical and I was good with carpentry. Perfect. I get to pick up some extra cash and skills working a few nights. We send a few texts and he stops over to meet me. He's a nice enough guy and we plan a night to get started. I would usually take a bus around the city, but my mum and sister are in town and they give me a lift over. Don't end up locked in the basement, my sister jokes, and I hop out. He offers a beer whilst he breaks down the project, and from what I can tell, he's doing a nice job. We talk about the work in general for a bit, and kick back another beer or two. Time is passing, and he is supposed to be paying me for my time. So I find it a little odd, but heck, it's how I would work on my house too, so power to you. Beers are cold, and they kept on coming. After around 4 or 5, we finally get moving and do a couple of odd jobs that take all of 30 minutes, and he's debating how far he wants to take it tonight. We have another beer whilst we think about it. I think I'm going to call it a night. Another beer and a cigarette, he asks, and I'll show you the rest of what I've been working on. Works for me, I reply, and I follow him up from the table. I've lost count of how many IPAs I've put back at this point, but my vision says in the range of 10 to 12. He holds open the door and tells me to head down in front of him into the basement. Not until this very moment had I thought twice about the course of the night, but that one word brought it all rushing back into perspective. I'm on high alert, but he hasn't done anything egregious, so I finish this cigarette and pray that I don't take a wrench to the head on my way back up. It's all safe back to the table, and then he asks randomly, "So, do you miss your girlfriend?" "Yeah, she's in Jersey, so it's tough seeing her." "Do you miss her sexually?" "What the hell, man?" Bells start ringing. It's 1 in the morning, and he changes the subject, but the mood has shifted. Sensing this, he decides to go for broke. What follows is a stream of things that shall not be repeated, beginning with innuendo and easing not so gracefully into the explicit. I am legitimately afraid now, and my brain is frying. Don't freak him out. At least I'm bigger. 2. Who the hell does this? 3. Do I have really nice legs? 4. I hope that there was nothing in those drinks. After his barrage of nonsense, I turn and say to him, "You've got the wrong section of Craigslist, buddy." He actually paid, and I ran 4 miles home, stopping only for Chinese food, the reason one always does. I was drunk, I had some money to burn, and I figured that this decision couldn't be much worse than the last. Number 2.
This happened to me when I was fresh out of college. I had gotten a job about 2 hours away from my hometown in a big city and had little use for my car. I put the car up on Craigslist for $3,000 which in all honesty would be a pretty sweet deal for whoever bought it, and within an hour I already had some promising responses. Out of all the potential buyers, one guy seemed very keen. He was offering to collect the car tomorrow and pay me in cash, as well as an additional $100 if I confirm now, as he really wanted it. At first I was cautious because I didn't want to carry so much cash around with me, but figured it would be fine and agreed quickly. It almost seemed too good to be true. I called him to arrange the meetup details and such, and he kept asking me odd questions during the call, if I lived far from the meeting point and whatnot, and how he didn't trust PayPal or any digital financial transactions. It had to be cash. This should have been my first big red flag. The next morning, I meet him at the meetup point. He looks shady as hell and kept jittering about. He looks at the exterior of the car and only looks into the interior through the windows, not really caring what the state of the inside is like. This should have been my second warning. He didn't react in the way I thought someone would getting such a sweet deal for a car that he really wanted. He kept trying to rush the process and was very cold and unfriendly, but I figured that was just how he was and thought nothing of it. After not much thought, he said he likes it and he'll take it, and after signing all the paperwork he handed me $3,000 in cash. I asked him about the extra $100 as he promised, but he told me that he forgot it and that he'd mail it to me. So that was it. I stuffed the envelope in my pocket and started walking home, feeling content that I was now holding the remainder of my mortgage deposit, but a little peeved that the guy promised his extra $100 but didn't deliver. About 10 minutes into my walk, and well over halfway home, I notice a car in the distance coming very close to the curb. There is no one around, and then two guys with ski masks on jump out of the car and tell me to get on the ground at gunpoint and hand over all my money. They retrieve the envelope and wallet and peel out there pretty much instantly. Obviously I'm extremely upset, and as I walk around whilst on the phone to the police, I find my wallet discarded on the side of the road. At that moment it all clicked. Obviously when I tried to call the guy back, the call didn't go through, and his account on Craigslist was no more. This was my first serious experience at being scammed big time. I just wish I could have been more careful and seen the signs. I felt like such an idiot, and I would never use Craigslist again.
Number 3. My mother and stepfather are ranchers. They got a new work truck and put the old one up for sale. A lady from another rural area about 4 hours away was super interested, but gave numerous reasons why she wouldn't drive even halfway to get the truck. My stepfather is nice to a fault, so he convinced my mother to follow in a second vehicle that Saturday, so that he could drive the truck there. My mother is no fool, and this lady was already making her suspicious. Well, her feelings weren't helped when they arrived, and the lady gave a convoluted story about bank problems and presented a post-dated check. She also begged my stepdad to leave the plates in his name. My mum excused herself, grabbed my stepdad, and had a heated argument about taking the checks and the plates. She won on cancelling the plates, but lost on the checks. So they drove another 4 hours home, and as anyone except my stepdad would have guessed, the check bounced when it came the date it was written. The woman dodged phone calls for a while, eventually answering and giving another convoluted story about being in the hospital and on and on. My stepfather, for once, stood his ground and told her that they would be taking back the truck. So they drove another 4 hours there, this time with a flatbed in case some parts were missing or something. No one answered the door at the property, and they found the truck in a shed and loaded it up. My stepfather had tried to keep my mum from saying what was on her mind, but whilst he was busy securing the load, she wrote something to the effect of, "Thanks for nothing. I really hope you enjoyed screwing around with us," and slipped the note under the door. 15 minutes later, as they're driving home, the cell phone rings, and the lady, who was supposedly hospitalized, was on the line. She said she was going to take the note to the RCMP and have them charged with harassment. At which point my mum reminded her that she would have to explain her own attempt at fraud. The crazy lady hung up, and they never heard from her again. Number 4.
My brother is fond of using Craigslist to find good electronic deals. The latest iPhone 5 was out at the time, and this dude in Akron, Ohio, was selling it for 30% the retail price. It sounded too good to be true, but my brother contacted the seller anyway. He stated that he got them for free and wanted to sell them off because he needed the money. He asked my brother to meet up with him at the local frozen custard shop at 10 PM. So my brother showed up, but after noticing the vacant lot and pure darkness, my brother drove off. The seller called my brother instantly and stated that he saw my brother drive by but needed my brother to enter the lot, and that's where the trade will be made. My brother drove back, and this time he can see the headlights on the seller's car cascading across the vacant parking lot. My brother called him back and stated that it was too dark and that he doesn't feel comfortable. After a bit of talking, they agreed to meet up at the closest McDonald's. My brother went there as fast as he could to enter McDonald's. He called the seller and told him to come inside to do the trade. The seller told my brother to meet at the back parking lot of the McDonald's. At this point he stated that he was no longer interested, because it seemed almost as though the seller had other agendas. After ordering some food, my brother and little cousin left McDonald's and proceeded to their car. Out of nowhere, this dude with a black mask on strangles my little cousin and shouted at my brother, "Give me all your money or he dies." My little cousin cried, "Quick, give him all your money, I don't want to die." My brother left my little cousin and bolted back inside McDonald's. My brother called 911 and the employees locked all the doors. My little cousin was let off and he stayed by the door of the McDonald's until the cops showed up. Seemed kinda messed up to leave a young child outside alone, but everyone was afraid of the gunman hiding and infiltrating the place. My family stopped using Craigslist after that.
Number 5. I needed a new roommate quickly, and eventually settled on this chick from Florida, who was moving out to San Diego. She initially came off as a little goofy and naive over the phone, but in person, she was just strange. She had no sense for personal boundaries, would eat all my food, use my laptop in my room when I wasn't home to go on plentyoffish.com, and would barge into my room when I had friends over to say the weirdest shit. All in the first week, mind you. Talk about making an impression. She did a ton of weird things in the month that she lived with me. She started hanging out with a co-worker from Subway, along with her co-worker's boyfriend, who just got out of jail, and 4 of his friends. They only really came around because she would buy stuff, and they laughed at the dumb shit that she would do and say. She would always leave the window cracked because she lost her keys a lot, and would talk about how she did it all the time. Anyway, her friends broke into the house, stole my TV, laptop, the smaller TV I had in my room, and this wedding dress that my aunt wanted me to sell on eBay for her, and a bunch of my DVDs and my prescription glasses. I mean, why? I call her freaking out, and she was just getting home, and said that she had called the cops on me because her broken laptop got stolen, and suggested that I took all my stuff out of the apartment to steal her crappy broken laptop. The cops came and pulled me aside and told me that she seemed unstable, and suggested that I don't use Craigslist anymore for roommates. I had her backed against the wall and was screaming at her with my finger in her face when the cops walked in. I thought I was screwed when they saw that, but after talking to her for all of 5 minutes, they seemed to understand my frustration with her. The cops just took down the stuff that was stolen, and I took her key away and put her one box of crap outside the apartment. I eventually got all my stuff back because I made up some bullshit story about having hidden cameras, and I wouldn't show it to the cops if I got all my stuff back, and somehow it worked. Bonus story. I sold a guy some headphones on Craigslist. I had my boyfriend do the exchange because it was far closer to where he lives than where I lived. The guy who bought the headphones freaked out because he was expecting a female to do the exchange. He emailed me for days about betrayal of the agreement between the buyer and the seller because I didn't show up and be all female at him and shit. And you know what he did? He sent me his home address so that I could make it right by stopping by and settling this. Eventually, I threatened to call the cops and blocked him. No idea what he would have done if I'd have shown up in the first place, but I am so glad I didn't. My boyfriend said that he appeared normal, but a little bit squirrely. I'm pretty sure I'd be in a basement somewhere with squirrely, adding me to his human millipede. Hey guys, it's Mort here, and thank you so much for listening. I'd just like to say thank you for all your well-wishing in yesterday's video. I'm not 100%, but I'm definitely getting better. Firstly, a huge thank you to that Creepypasta guy for working with me on this video. He's another excellent British narrator who is certainly worth your subscription. Be sure to follow us over to his channel using the link provided on screen soon or in the description for the second half of the video. But before you go, if you enjoyed today's video, please consider dropping a like and leaving a comment with what you thought of the video. And if you want your story read on my channel, you can submit it as a text post to Reddit or send it to me via email. Both links can of course be found in the description. And if you would like to do something truly amazing today to help support the channel, you now can via Patreon. You can find the link in the description, as well as the links to my social media pages. But anyway, for now guys, I'm gonna sign off. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.